We have planned with 2 N's. Now we plant with a big old fat T on it. We are going to plant our spring garden this week. Right here. Now, actually, we're just going to talk about planting our spring garden and give you some tips to get you going in your spring garden right here on the Backyard Gardens podcast.
To have a good harvest, one must plant good seeds and must also use the right kind of fertilizer. The carrots have grown large and firm. How good they will taste.
Welcome to the Backyard Gardens podcast, where we talk about all things gardening and give the information out for you to be successful in your garden, whether it's your first or your last. We are your hosts, Ben, the backyard gardener, and
Batavia, the front yard gardener.
One in the country,
one in the city.
Now get ready as we dig deep into this wonderful world of gardening, as we learn to grow and grow for change. Energy, 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 spring energy.
Activate. I'm just going to keep on saying happy spring because I'm glad it's here.
I'm not.
You're not glad it's here, or you're not going to say happy
no.
spring?
I wish it was winter forever. Just a winter wonderland.
I could see that. No, come on.
You can?
No, I know. You're just this early in the episode. You're pulling my leg.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's one of those days. So yeah, we're going to talk about planting, and we're going to give you some tips about planting. And I keep saying planting because for weeks now, Batavia and I have been having to spell these words out constantly, and it is frustrating. So I am ready to have this damn garden planted.
Yeah. Until
we probably end up doing an episode about planning your summer garden or something like that. So, but these are our top tips of what we do in our gardens.
Or will do.
Mm-hmm. Or plan to do, or should do and don't do.
Oh, I like that. I like that a lot.
There's a lot like that, right? I mean, when we're on the show, I tried to practice what I preach. Mm-hmm. And there was something recently, I don't know what it was, and I was like, I'm not going to do it. And I was like, damn, I sit there and I tell all those people, those good people that listen to us, and I'm going to sit here and not do it. I was like, I'm going to get up and do it.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it was. I wish I knew. It would be a better story.
Yeah, no, it's all good. I actually had that same thought. And for me, it was around fertilizing seedlings. So yeah. It speaks against, my garden ways, but.
Oh, wait, I forgot. I have a gardening question.
Oh, okay.
But I'm not going to frame it as a question. I'm going to frame it as a reminder.
Okay.
Okay. So an individual messaged us and asked us, or basically told us, and it's one of those things, Batavia, we've talked about this before. We've talked about it privately, how sometimes the easy stuff kind of slips your mind and you forget to mention it. Mm-hmm. And I was really thankful that she sent it to me. She said that she had planted onions and garlic and didn't see them for months and was scared that the deer came by and ate them all. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, the reminder is, don't forget you put bulbs out there and they take time to come up.
Yeah.
Because I've done that myself. Like I was like, oh, I forgot I put bulbs here, and here.
Yeah.
That's the reminder. And then the answer to the question, which... again, I've thought people knew, but it's just I take it for granted is deer don't like really smelly things, so they don't really like that kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so for if you have deer issues like planting lavender, mint, onions and garlics and stuff, they don't want to walk through it. Because their sense of smell is so good, it makes them vulnerable to predators. So that's why that stuff can help.
That's actually a really good tip. Okay.
I put lavender and mint in my garden, and I did not have deer come through one time until the mint died off and you couldn't smell it anymore.
Yeah, and I think that's a note depending on where you are, because lavender wouldn't grow for me.
No. Well, and you don't have deer in your area.
Yeah. Well, but I still have things that will dig up things, right?
But that tip is not for all things. It's only for deer.
Okay. All right. I'll take it. But smell is a thing for some other animals. For the deer, though, or anything that you're worried about, I would have thought she would have seen like the remnants of if they had been digging in there.
She's as actually this. Damn, I hope it is. I'm gonna say it, and I think she's the same lady that has the big land that was starting the farm. Remember, we were talking about amending. So I'm thinking that it's off-site.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
You know what I mean? Or it's just somewhere. And I mean, plus in the wintertime, like sometimes it's common to not go out in your garden. Like you put bulb. Like I don't go check my bulbs every day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I forgot that I've planted. And so then they asked me what bulbs I planted because we were talking about it. And I was like, I don't know. That's on my to-do list this week. I forgot all the names. So, but anyways, and that's it basically kind of feeds us into the spring talk because that's part of spring. Your bulbs are going to be coming up soon.
Yeah. And spring is so very different. In so many ways compared to your typical summer garden season. Or for some people, when they say, like, spring doesn't start until, June 20th? So some people are in the garden in May and...
No, that's summer.
Or that's what I meant, sorry. Summer doesn't start until June 20th. So some people are in the garden in late May and early June, but the reality is that's still spring. So when we talk about kind of your spring garden, if you're out there in May and June, technically that's still spring. And so I bring that up because what you experience at the end of May and early June will be different than what you experience at the beginning of April, which is where we're going to be when this is actually, released.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, it's a totally different world planting outside this time of year. It's getting warmer, but it's a roller coaster ride for temperatures. And that's something to keep in mind as you're planting and planning and, all that stuff. And maybe you've just found us. And if you found us, hi, my name is Ben Gardner, and this is the Backyard Gardens podcast, and I'm with Batavia.
That's what they call me. You can call
That's what they call her.
You can call me B as well.
B.
Yeah.
Only good friends can call her B.
I'm extending this to, well, it's already extended to you, but I'm extending this to all of the listeners as well.
I call you Miss Batavia because that's what my son calls you.
That's what I demand you call me.
Which, by the way, my son told me the other day, he goes, Daddy, are you going to go talk to Miss Batavia again? I said, yeah. He goes, tell her I said hello. I miss her. So...
Oh, you stop it. Stop it. Oh,
he says so hello.
Cute. Oh, tell him I said hello. Why did she say it that way? Because she was fighting back tears.
Yeah. He's something else. But anyways, so as the roller coaster happens, you have to be careful, because we might get a little anxious. I have that problem. Do you?
Yeah. What's interesting? So I was thinking about this. For the spring, I'm monitoring the highs. Right. So coming from out of winter into spring, I'm monitoring the high temperatures. In the summer going into fall, I'm keeping a close eye on the low temperatures. And that's not necessarily a good practice, but it's that anxiousness where it's like, oh my gosh, okay, it's going to be 40 and 50 as a high for all of this week, the next 14 days. This is it. My time is now. Right. But the reality is the amount of hours in that day that is actually 40 or 50 are minimal. Small. Yeah. Compared to when you're still fighting your way out of the 20s, like, what is it? This morning, it's 28. It's going to get to, 35 or something, but 28 it's obviously below freezing. So, I think that's my anxiousness, not necessarily like my garden smarts, if you will. Right. So be careful of that.
Well, yeah. And I think, so first of all, I hate to say this on the show, Batavia, but you're wrong about monitoring the high temperatures. Should be monitoring the low temperatures if you're looking at planting. Didn't
I just say that?
I know. I hate saying it. I just have to say it.
But I thought that I just went through that it's really not the right thing to do, but it's my anxiousness. So do you think that when other people were listening, they didn't pick up on, I can't help myself?
They're probably right now like, Ben's such a dick. He had to say something, but I did. Because...
But did you heard when I said it too. Is this thing on?
No. No, and I do the same thing though. But I do it for a number of reasons too, because soil warmth has a big thing to do with it too. And, if you buy a soil thermometer... which, you know, I'm going to take my shoe off and stick it in my mouth from last year. I was like, I didn't see no fucking soil thermometer. Well, no, there's a soil thermometer. So if you were to buy one, which I'm not going to, I don't plan on it. I think you would really notice a difference. And I've really noticed it through the greenhouse this year about soil temperature, though.
Yeah.
Because I get cold in the night, but I stay warm during the day. Warmer in there. And I think it's made a big difference keeping that little bit of soil warmth going on right around the roots and stuff. I think that's made a big difference. So you're not totally wrong to be looking at high temperatures too.
No, I'm totally wrong. That was the whole idea of what I brought up. It's the well, sure, keep the highs in mind, but when it comes to trying to make sure that these plants will stay healthy, it really is, the potential harm is not going to be that it's 50. That's not going to harm my plant. The potential harm is that it was for 8 hours continually 20 degrees overnight, you know. That's the issue. And depending on the stage my plant is in, right? You know, so how big is this seedling? How much growth is there really? So, you know, absolutely. It's, you know, you are absolutely correct in saying, you know, we should be monitoring something different. But again, I just thought that's what I had said, you know.
So, yeah. And I mean, it's, you know, and the biggest thing, and so my first tip right now.
Yeah, dig in.
My first tip is, you know, official tip, because I feel like we've given a few out already, is plant accordingly to the low temperatures. Okay. So right now in my spring garden, if it dropped to 28 degrees, I sleep just fine because everything out there is going to make it through that 28 degrees. Everything I've put out there is. And so as the days go on and on and on, and I'm putting in stuff that needs a little bit warmer. So, you know, I don't have that worry at all. So,
okay.
Sorry if you just heard a big thunk out there. I just hit the mic, but,
that's okay.
You know, go ahead.
I'll take that tip.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's something that I didn't realize before. So like I purposely put out my kale, my cabbage, and my broccoli first. And actually my broccoli went out a week later because we start to warm up. Probably I would say that our temperature goes to the warmth a lot faster than you. You know, we'll rapidly start getting warmer and warmer, but you know, I know like cabbage and kale, they can take a deep cold and come back. So my lettuce, no. And all the lettuce that's out there all winter has been struggling to come back.
Yeah.
So
needs to regulate that temperature. Okay.
Yeah.
So I absolutely think that that's something to keep in mind. And don't be overzealous, right? You know, when it comes to,
and it's easy to get excited.
Yeah, when it comes
especially
to
if you're looking at the high temperatures.
Days, yeah. And 50 feels a lot different after you've gone through 20s for months, right? So the next tip. So my first tip is going to be, especially if you have more than one growing space, before you actually get out there to plant. So you can start hardening off your seedlings and all of that. But before you get off to plant, let's not look at the top of the soil, right? Because that's what you're going to see that's going to thaw if you're in a freezing area. First, you want to make sure that you're digging down and make sure that soil is truly workable. But most important, just because the soil is maybe not ready in one area of your garden doesn't mean that it may not be in another. So for me, like right now at the time of recording, I have a couple of spots that I can get my spade into just fine. And we talked about this a little bit before we got started. A lot of that's the positioning of the sun, you know, and how much kind of cold and snow and, you know, certain areas have gotten hit and other areas have actually started to thaw sooner. So make sure that you just don't wait because one area of your garden is still kind of frosty. Yeah. Make sure you're checking all of the areas that you plan on growing in because you may be surprised. So
yeah. And I mean, I agree with that completely because part of it needs to be, you know, you need to be aware of what thaws and what doesn't at what time, you know, because moving forward, just like if this year is your first spring garden, like it is yours, just think about next year once you know that and think about that plan you can put together. So, you know, I think it's important to know that.
Yeah, I
probably
stopped.
didn't even need to be said, to be honest.
I don't know. I'm going to tell you, so it's what's accessible. You go, the cage baby is a great example. I'm not going to dig through the cage baby if I don't have to. So if I go to the front yard, which is much easier, and put my spade in, it's frozen, I may assume that the rest of the garden is frozen too. And that may not be the case, and that also depends on, again, how in tune you are with where the sun's traveling and how long that it's out for. The good thing though is every day you'll get a little bit more, every day there'll be a little bit more exposure to that sun. So if it's not ready right now, it's probably going to be weeks, not necessarily days, but you're on the right path.
Yeah. That's the big difference between now and fall is you're getting more every day. Every day you're getting I think it's 2 minutes a day, roughly, more sun, maybe a minute, something like that.
Yeah, it's more like a minute. Yeah.
Yeah. It fluctuates, but still every day you're getting more versus in the fall, it's like, damn, every day is less. And just remember, time change doesn't give you an hour more.
Yeah, you were really nippy with me one time when I talked about that. I don't remember the episode, and no one really wants to hear that again. That dark side of you.
I'm sorry. Yeah, but I mean, I caught myself thinking of that the other day though, and I was like, oh well, we're gonna get an hour back, and but it doesn't matter to the plants, but
yeah, it didn't work out quite that way.
Yeah, so making sure things aren't frozen solid. For me,
I think in summary, it's your garden may have thawed at different times, so keep that in mind, right?
Make sure different area.
Yeah. It's more about that.
Let's coin a term for that. For the Backyard Gardens podcast, Backyard Gardens TV. How about thawing rates?
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. Know your thawing rates.
Yeah. Hashtag it.
Hashtag. Not trending anywhere, but still important.
With your help, we can make it. Well, with your help, we can make it register as actual hashtag. I don't know if it's going to trend.
All right, everybody. Now that it's spring, we're going to do one more giveaway to get seeds in your garden, and we're going to do our direct seed sowing giveaway, which happens to be Ben's favorite giveaway, shockingly enough. Giveaway closes on May 1st, 2021, and Batavia is going to let you know one of the ways to enter.
So one of the ways to enter is by going to backyardgardenstv.com and enter your email address. With this, you'll be entered into the May 1st giveaway and all future giveaways. And then for an extra entry,
head over to YouTube to the Backyard Gardens YouTube channel and watch the video Gardeners Love Spring. Watch it, like it, and leave a comment telling us what your favorite thing to either grow in your garden is or your favorite thing about spring gardening. That way, we know more about you and you might win our seeds. Now on to our regularly scheduled program. So don't forget that you can direct sow in the spring. Even if you started the seed inside, you can still direct sow. Some things are good candidates for it. So don't forget that, please.
Yeah.
So what I have done is I direct sow. Well, I start lettuce inside, and then at the time of planting, I put the lettuce out, and then I direct sow at the same time. And I do the same with spinach. I do the same with different flowers, But at this point, we're not really. We're still kind of far from our last frost dates, and some of you may be pretty far from it. So, but yeah, I direct sow a lot of things. Collards I've done before like that. I've done kale like that. Kohlrabi I do like that. So kohlrabi though, I started a month before I planted out, only a month. And then I planted out. And then at the same time I put more in. And that just, it gives it to you. And then there's some things that I only plant like radishes, carrots, beets, only put out
a lot of those root vegetables. Yeah.
So don't be afraid to go out and direct sow. It's a lot easier. The only difference is, and I believe we were talking about this in our first take of the show that we had to stop, but my carrots took 17 to 20 days, one of the two, to sprout in my garden.
Yeah.
And how long did yours take, which you did inside?
I started them inside in a container, and it took 7 daes to sprout, to germinate.
So that's a big difference, okay? Yeah. And that goes back to that soil temperature. Mm-hmm. That goes directly to that soil temperature. Now, Batavia, I'd like for you to do me a favor.
Sure.
I would like for you to make a disclaimer about what you just said about starting your carrots inside so the listeners know that you're not crazy.
Get these words out of my mouth and into your head. So yeah, I wanted to go back. It was my intention to grow carrots indoors. And that didn't quite work out. Right. But since I had already started them, I started them on January the 14th. And they germinated by January the 21st. They're inside of a container. They will not stay indoors. My basement where my grow room is pretty warm. So I think that also attributed to the germination rate that's much faster. I plan on moving the container outside. And I'm going to do the whole hardening off, right? I plan on moving the container outside and letting them grow to basically harvest outdoors. That's the goal. Separately, I am going to plant carrots, direct sow seeds outside, but that's the plan. And maybe it's, 10 carrots. We're not talking about anything that's big because, again, it was inside. So
yeah. But you didn't put them in. What I wanted you to say is you didn't start them inside with the intent of, really transplanting them or starting, like, you were just testing.
Yeah. So let me tell you what I really wanted you to say. They're not being transplanted, meaning I'm not taking the individual carrots out of the container and putting them into the ground. I'm literally moving the entire container and leaving everything intact and relocating it outside. And it will stay, if they live, it will stay and grow in that container. So
right. And now I low-key was hoping that Batavia was trying to break all barriers and transplant carrots. Like everybody, I mean, it's like a big no-no.
Yeah.
I was low-key hoping, but
and back to what you were hoping. This wasn't the plan. It wasn't my intention to start in January to move them out. But I may have, I don't know, we'll see. Maybe I stumbled onto something.
You may,
an early batch of carrots. We'll see.
Yeah, solid. I mean, that would be pretty sweet. You could... Yeah, we have to talk about that a little bit more offline.
Yeah. If it'll be in a garden update in the future. If it's successful, I already have some tips around that, but we'll save them to see if they're successful. Because if it's not successful, I don't know if my tips are worthy.
Yeah, and by the way, Batavia just said it. We are bringing the garden updates back as soon as we can. So we're anxious for it.
Yeah.
So. I forgot
you may have even heard a garden update, so just know that it's actually going to be a regular thing. So I think that's what they heard, last week.
Yeah, basically, yeah. So, you know what? It may have. I don't even know the schedule anymore.
Yeah,
I get lost,
I can see it on your face. It's okay. Leonard and I have
totally
it under control. Yeah.
Do I have the
2021? We're still in 2021. That's all you need to know.
Yeah, Leonard's big project is trying to figure out how to cross his toes. So, whose turn is it? I forgot.
Mine. So this one is a little bit further down the line when it comes to the planting piece, but it's at top of mind, and it's eat young. So be okay with Ben's favorite, baby greens, right? I'm not saying that you have to, but be okay with it. I plan on having some, young kale, young collard leaves, some baby lettuce, For me, this is just seeing what's going to make a way in my garden area for, in 6A in Chicago. So it's more of, a way to enjoy the garden now and not wait so long for everything, right? So a lot of the things that we're growing, you're not obviously eating, beets young, right? You're going to let them get to harvestable size. But some of these other leafy greens, don't be afraid to, start harvesting early once you have some ample leaves on the plants. So
yeah, for sure. I just did that before we came on here, actually. I harvested some baby kale and stuff. And basically because my kale has sat idle all winter and it's starting to grow, and I was like, I'm just going to trim it and get it to grow. So, but I'm not for, let me clear the air on this. I am not for growing for the intent of baby greens, but consuming them and taking them, I'll go for.
Or you're not for the idea of the marketing around the idea of baby greens and things, right?
That may be what my problem is, actually. I don't know.
Which I
don't know
dig
what
it.
my problem is.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's all right. We still love you.
I guess I need I need to find myself, apparently. Oh, never mind. So
now you're just being silly.
That's okay, right? Mm-hmm. It's our show. We can do what we want, damn it.
Go ahead for your next tip while I eat this peach.
You got a peach?
Frozen. I know. It's such a disappointment.
I was like, where'd you get the peach from? So, yeah. First of all, I'm tired of eating apples and oranges. Okay, moving on.
Yeah, I know you would be.
And my next thing is when you get them out in the ground, especially when you're direct sowing, be very careful that you either don't put something in front of a direct sowed seed because it's something in front of it or like shade it out. Because when those seeds come up, when you see that first seed come up and you get super excited, it needs all the light it can get to create food to grow because it has just enough food in it and that seed to get it to that exact point. So case in point, we were talking about planting 2 ends, the spring garden. I was saying that I put my carrots in the back and I cover them with a board. And if you haven't seen, you can go check out a YouTube video. I just did like 2 videos talking about it, which, by the way, I did one where I'm looking for a mushroom bed and I pointed out because I was checking out, but, I was started in the back and I was going to move the board forward each time I did a succession planting. So I did the first one that came up, I moved it, and then I noticed that the sun was blocked for about 2 hours of the day of those seedlings. So I had to abandon that whole thing. What I should have done is started in the front and go back. It wouldn't have been an issue. So, and the same thing goes if you put a seedling in front of it, like the seedlings you've been growing it for 6 weeks, month, whatever, it's going to be a lot bigger. So just be very careful and very mindful of that. It's an easy oversight. So, and I mean, you got to get this because the angle of the sun is low still.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I think at the time of this comes out, the angle of the sun will be a lot higher. It won't be an issue.
Yeah, this is first or second week of April. So again, like you said, we're gaining more sun every day. And the sun's getting higher and higher in the sky every day. So yeah, I mean, I think that the easiest way is to plant everything and leave everything, right? Or direct sow everything and leave everything. When you're doing this combination, when you're trying to get to a diverse garden, when you're trying to get to the most productive garden, you do these combinations where you're putting transplants in and you're direct sowing. And you just, again, one of my always and forever, this isn't the tip for now, but one of my always and forever tips and lessons learned is plant with the idea of the size of the vegetable at kind of full capacity, right? So keep that in mind. My next tip, though, is, and this is something that I'm going to try this year, so I don't have kind of full knowledge of this being working, but I feel good about it. So in the cage baby, I am going to do some leafy greens. It's either going to be, I'm going to plant either lettuce or spinach or a combination of both. And I'm going to, because I already know the tomatoes that I'm going to plant. It's not quite time to put them in. I'm going to take containers, because I got a shit ton of those, and basically fill them with dirt, dig up the space I plan on planting my tomatoes, right? And so I'm going to essentially plant the container, nothing in it, no vegetable in it, but it's a placeholder, right? So I'm going to put those, and I normally plant my tomatoes basically in a line, put those in the hole, and then that's going to allow me to plant my lettuce and sow my spinach seeds and such kind of around that area. You talk a lot about kind of the planting something and then knowing that you're going to plant something else later. But I'm actually going to make the space for it because visually I kind of need to see that, and so later on, all I'm going to do is pick it up, maybe dig a little bit further because I'll still have lettuce in place once I plant my tomatoes in a couple of months, like in a month and a half. Take that container out, maybe dig the hole a little bit deeper and drop my tomato plant in there. That's my plan when it comes to planting my spring leafy vegetables. But the tip is kind of keeping what the next vegetable that you're planting in mind is. And in this case, for me, it's tomatoes. Yeah.
So if I got a little bit lost there.
Okay.
So let me see if I got it right. You're going to plant, let's just say lettuce and tomatoes. You're going to put lettuce in basically like a ring.
I'm going to put...
Or you're going to leave a space, a visible space, and when it's growing, you can see, this is where the tomato will go.
Yeah. So the dirt will go into a pot. The pot will be planted into the ground. It's going to be above the ground where I can still see it. That's going to be the placeholder for where I plan on putting my tomato plants. Okay. And that allows me to easily plant around that area. So there's no worry about me disturbing what I already have in the ground when I'm trying to get my tomato plants in there. And the things that I'm planting are going to be lower kind of height vegetables. So I don't have to worry about kind of stumbling over them. When I get my tomato plants planted, I still plan on having, leafy greens in the ground as well. So that's why I'm doing that.
Have you started your tomato plants yet?
At the time of this recording, I would have. Or I'm sorry, at the time of this airing, I would have. At the time of this recording,
I'm talking about right now.
Nope,
have you?
Not yet.
Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, no, I like that. I think that's a solid plan. Mm-hmm. Because I look at the way I do it, and I just hope and pray I can get something in there. You know what I mean? But I'll pull something up. I mean, I have no problem pulling something up for something, you know.
And I don't necessarily think that that's, the idea for everything you're planting, because there's going to be some things that I am going to clear the bed when it's time to get my summer vegetables in. But in this case, for this particular area, this is, this is my baby, the cage baby. Yeah. And it's not easy to get in and out of. And so I want to take some extra precautions to make sure that I'm not tempted to leave things in the ground longer and delay my tomatoes getting in there. So yeah.
I would never, and let me rephrase it. I have never just cleared a bed for a planting and started with an empty slate. I've never done that. I've always kind of worked things in and, did it in sections and stuff like that. So it's like I put my carrots, I put a patch of carrots in, and I put them in, and then with the intention of like, I'm going to either have to remove these, or there's going to be the space right here for what's coming next. I kind of pre-thought about all that. So when I did my plan, you saw that my beds were filled up to the max. And in reality, and this is the case in point every year, that has not and will not happen. So I have definitely left some areas that are like free and clear of stuff. So it's like I can easily get stuff into those areas. And that's kind of how I do it. Yeah. You know what I mean? But I like what you're doing, because when you look at it, like I could max it out and be like, this is where it's going to go, and, do it from there. Yeah. So there are two things, though. One thing that I think maybe you're overlooking, and one thing that I'm compensating for. So you may be overlooking that it takes some experience to plant around things, right? That the idea of disturbing what's already there is a real concern for some folks, right? The idea of kind of knowing what space, that you need now that you have something kind of around that garden area. So the thing I'm compensating for is I almost always plant my garden with a clean slate, right? So I get to make the decision in the moment where I'm going to put what, and I don't have things that are like, even if I have a garden that has some vegetables in it, like you're describing, it's not the full bed. It'll be like half of the bed was planted. And I have, again, clearly another half of the bed I can plant in. But I'm not worried about, when I pull up this, did I place this other seed too close to it or too far away or whatever have you. So I'm overcompensating for that because I don't have that experience. Right. And maybe it isn't as difficult as I've made it in my mind, but... Yeah, this is the way I'm getting ahead of it in my mind. I think you're right. I think I am overlooking that a little bit. And, it does take time. Because, there's been times where I've literally, like when I first started doing stuff like this, is I would put a tomato plant on top of a lettuce plant, basically, You
talk a lot about planting behind things. And every time you say it, I get it. But it's kind of like,
but I would do
or
it
under
like
is where you describe it.
Spacing would be way off. My spacing would just be horrible. And, it's kind of like a part of the evolution for me as a gardener is I got to a point where I was just like, I'm going to pull that shit out the ground, instead of being like, all right, I'm going to cut this lettuce back and leave this lettuce here. It's going to be a little close, because in reality, what's going on is the lettuce is already there. It's full-fledged growing at this point. Okay. By the time you go to put your tomato in, it's in its peak growing. Okay. And then not only that, it's in its peak getting ready to try and bolt. You know, let's be honest. Like, it's not far from it.
Oh, no. I feel good. I would have eaten all of the lettuce for me at this time with my plan. But yeah, I get you.
Well, so, and then you put your tomato in. And your tomato, it's all like, oh, you just ripped me out of my nice warm pot. And you've been trying to burn me with this big orange ball. And you put it out there. So its roots are not growing. So what's going to happen is the lettuce could overtake it or whatever. You know what I mean? It could just become a big battle. Yeah. And so that's something that, but I think what you're doing makes sense. Because it eliminates that. You know, you can go ahead and pre-plan and then not have that internal debate. And then like, hey, this lettuce is going to come up, you know?
Yeah, and I don't have to worry about, oh, shit, this thing got bigger than what I thought, right? And if it does, all I need to do is, harvest a little bit more. Again, this is, I think when I came in with this tip, it was more of, this is like a tip for me, and it may be helpful for some other people. But in my mind, it's going to make things a little bit less stressful for me. And
all of these tips are for us, for other people.
Yeah, well, this isn't proven though, right? But I really think that for this particular kind of planting, it'll be helpful for me. So we'll see. Obviously, I'll let you guys know if it was like
I'm gonna go ahead and tell you that I might do it myself.
What the hell was it?
Yeah, I might do it myself sometime. I mean. It could be just me sticking a stick in the ground, though.
Yeah.
Just like physically marking, like, boom, this is where it's going to go. And I might do that when we get off here.
Yeah.
I got some Chinese cabbage to put in the ground. I might go and be like, these are my high value crops. I need to not, jack around with them. So
yeah, I did that with my more of the garlic. We were talking about that a little bit ago. Last fall when I planted my garlic, I had to mark it off. So I didn't start if I wanted, because I had a little space left in the beds. I didn't want to make sure that I wasn't digging up that garlic. So I basically know that garlic is from these two sticks back. But I do want to comment when it comes to planting next to things and close to things. I have no issue doing any of that with flowers. I'll move transplant flowers around, and I'll, dig up like, damn, that's the root. Let me stuff this other flower in there. Like, I have no issue at all doing that with flowers. It's like the vegetables are higher stakes for me.
Yeah. So, and actually I did do something kind of like what you're talking about. So I was putting out some icicle radishes that a lovely person that I know in my life sent me. She's so sweet. Thank you, Batavia. So I was out planting radishes, and I always put marigolds in this one spot in my bed. I don't rotate it. I did last year. I hated it. I hated having zinnias in my garden. I hated it. Hated it. It made me mad. It was horrible. They got tall. They broke. Whatever. So, but I was planting it, and I went ahead and I just grabbed a stick and drew a box, because I know that as those radishes, they only take 21 days.
So they say.
Yeah. For a radish this big, they take 21 days.
Yeah.
I want a radish, a little bit bigger.
What did I say? Eat young baby radishes? Okay, sure.
Yeah. But I knew that they would mature fast, so I made a small box.
Yeah.
Because I also know that when I put my marigold in, if I have to, I can pull a couple of those radishes out of that row away from it. And I also know that radish roots don't really go crazy.
Yep, exactly. I mean, the concept isn't new. It's just taking it one step further so I can visually see things. And it's also for me to try to get an idea of, I really want to take more advantage of the cage baby and growing around tomatoes. So these are literally 3 garden beds that essentially were dedicated to tomatoes and a couple of peppers. So I'm also toying with the idea, keeping in mind crop rotation and like friends and foes for tomatoes, but I'm trying to get an idea of what can I successfully grow around those plants without the plants actually being there, but then also considering what to grow, which will be a later experiment when those plants get bigger. That's the real challenge, but we're not quite there yet. Yeah,
I agree. And I think that's a great idea.
Well, thank you.
Can I tell my next thing, because I just thought of it?
Absolutely.
Don't say anything, I'm gonna lose it. You're planting stuff now that need nitrogen. Okay, you're planting a lot of leafies, okay, and nitrogen creates that. So be sure you're fertilizing, pre-fertilize. I actually, this is the first and last year that I'm going to use blood meal. And that's just from an ethical standpoint. I'm not going to use blood meal anymore. I'm going to use alfalfa meal in the future, I believe.
Okay. I've seen that.
It's where's the blood come from? You know what I mean?
And it's animal bones.
And I don't have a problem. I want to take a stance real quick and say, like, I don't have a problem with eating meat. I don't have a problem with people eating meat. What I have a problem with is factory farming. So I hunt, I shoot animals, I kill them, and I eat them like they're supposed to be. They live their best life until they take a bullet. Versus factory farms, they don't do that. You do your own research. There's my stance, and that's it. Moving on. So that being said, I'm not going to use blood meal anymore, but it's a high nitrogen fertilizer. And so I bought a bag of it. I'm going to use it. It's not like I'm going to throw it away, but I added it at the time of planting. And I also added my other fertilizer to it because you need to start gearing up your garden. If you're planting in multiple seasons, you're going to deplete your soil.
Yeah.
And you're going to deplete it fast. Because like I do intensive gardening because, and just like Batavia said, you're putting in one plant and then you're putting one in directly behind it. You're not giving it any time to rest. So you need to feed it. So make sure that you're putting a dusting of fertilizer in, make sure that you are taking care of it. And, don't think that you're like, oh, I'm good. And that goes from adding compost into the hole when you plant. You go to stick that whole plant in there, you put compost in there with it. Yeah. And then it just gives you that little bit of boost. Now there is research. Have you heard about this?
I don't know. You have to tell me what it is.
When you put fertilizer or compost into the hole with the plant, that the plant will be so happy that it will not spread the roots out and search and basically not be as productive.
I haven't heard that.
I've heard that a couple times. I'm not sold.
Okay.
But, I did want to put that out there there's talk of that being a thing.
We'll check in with you in 3 years to see if, how you feel about it.
Yeah, I'll have a good rant about it in 3 years.
No, but you're spot on. And for someone like me that has a first time spring garden that will also have a summer garden, it could very well be like this may be the thing that gets me over the hump when it comes to buying in fully to fertilizing regularly, right? Because in my mind, I was going to treat the planting of my spring garden like I would my summer garden. Right. But this will be the first year that I'll have plants. Again, we just talked about it in place when it's time to plant at least half of the garden, when it's time to put my summer garden in place. So I have to keep in mind how much am I able to really amend my bed like I normally would going into my summer garden. So, it's a really good tip. And obviously there are different ways, there's a slow release, there's, that kind of the quick shot and jolt. But make sure that that's a part of your planting. And some of these vegetables you have are heavier feeders, if you will.
It's interesting. And, if you think about it, well, no, not if you think about it. Like I figured out that I have a problem. In 15 years of gardening, which technically is probably like 16 now, but it's always going to be 15 because I don't add a year every year.
I got you. I'm sorry. I got distracted and a little bit annoyed because I didn't wrap up the potato chip cookie and now it's like taunting me. So I'm sorry. That was rude. I apologize.
That's okay.
And I can't wrap it up because it's like all kinds of crinkly paper. So I'm just going to put something in front of it.
In all reality, we do sit around and talk about eating food for an hour, so it does get hard. But I realized that I under-fertilize. And what set me off on that was when I was doing the whole soil testing. If you haven't heard the soil episode, go check it out. Talks about my soil test and how I'm working on fixing it and all that. But I really dug into like fertilizer application rates. And I realized that I had been under-fertilizing for 15, 16 years, whatever. So it was interesting to think that. So I went out there and, really did what I was supposed to do. And I was like, damn, that's a lot of fertilizer. What did you call it again?
Fertilization rates?
Yeah, the fertilization rates. Okay. That's a term.
Yeah.
That's not coined term by us. So.
No. I understand it, but it's, I'm making a note for, others like me that will listen to this and then need to go Google it.
Well, and the big thing, the reason why is I really looked into my square footage of my garden when I had to, because, they gave me specific application rates for the fertilization rates for the rate of, I'm just kidding now. I'm going crazy. But, they gave me application rates to add the fertilizer, and it was based off of acreage, which then I had to turn down into square footage because obviously I'm not like that. And it was interesting because then I was like, okay, I have this much square footage. And then I look at the bag and I'm like, oh, I'm supposed to put like a pound? Like this bag of fertilizer is only supposed to last me like 2 rates, and I've been making it last me like all year.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you cheat bastard.
That's hard for me. There's some things that I am okay with adding a extra scoop of. What was it we were talking about? I was talking with my great aunt about making a half of a pound cake, right? So we were talking about just cut the recipe in half. You'll let me know if Mrs. Gardner agrees. But she said, but things like vanilla or, whatever your lemon flavor is, don't cut that in half. And I said, don't we always add a little bit extra anyway? So there's some things that I'm like, oh, I'm going to add extra in. But there are other things like what I'm cooking or in the garden. I'm notorious for that, where I'm just like, maybe only a little bit here. And I don't know if it's that whole idea of like not wanting to run out, not wanting to be wasteful. Let's see if I can get away with 3/4 of the cup versus the cup. Well,
see, that was me. I was trying not to run out. I was trying to be cheap. And, but I agree with you. And then, because I added it directly on top of my bed, I just sprinkled it on. And so then I looked and I was like, damn, that's a lot of fertilizer. So then, I went on a fertilizer kick. Let's put it that way. So I started researching more. And, I want to educate myself. And for the people, I should do that anyways. And I was reading it, and like of the bag of, I use an organic fertilizer. I'm not going to say their name. They're going to have to pay me to say their name. But, most of like 96% of it is filler. So I was like, oh, it's really not that much fertilizer. It's just the filler, which they use in order to help distribute it and stuff like that. But then I felt better when I realized that like most of that bag is not actually fertilizer. And then it made sense of why you have to add so much.
But isn't so much relative though? Like...
I mean, dude, I was throwing out cups and cups and cups, and it was covered. The wind was blowing, and it was in my mouth and in my face, and
Good thing it's organic,
yeah, you ain't lying. So, I mean, it was interesting kind of turn of events, because for years I had looked at fertilizer like you, and I'm still, and this, I was like, just put a little bit, but maybe it needs more. I don't know. Now this was me dusting an entire bed.
Sure.
I would not layer it on around a plant because I do spot fertilize, and I will do that more often this year. So, fertilization. Yeah. Make sure you're building your beds up, and make sure you're adding in extra nitrogen. Blood meal, alfalfa meal, fish seaweed fertilizer from Neptune's Harvest. Is a great fertilizer. Feeds a lot of other stuff. Can you think of anything else that's nitrogen heavy?
No.
There's a nitrate soda that you can put in. It's SODA.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think that this is... Well, no, I just paused because I think this is where it's that cost to volume ratio. So I think it's right in line with your tip. Like, before you buy the package, let's take a read to see how much they're recommending that you use.
Yeah.
It's not so much that you may need a second package, but... you may be starting to introduce something to your garden that you really need much more of. And if you're not going to use the proper measurements, again, this is do as I say, not as I do, then are you really benefiting your garden? And it may not be a detriment, but are you benefiting your garden? Because you could just be kind of throwing some money in the air, sprinkling it.
But you know what, in all of that, the most important thing to add to your garden is? That compost.
Yeah, I knew you were going there.
Yeah. Put that compost in that hole, man. Get you a bag of compost. Well, really, you need to be making your compost, but if you can't, no, just get you a bag of compost, though, and tote it around with you. That's what I mean. I have my own compost, but I still have a bag of Moo-Doo.
Okay.
And I put it in there, Yeah. What is the one you use? Moo-Newer?
Moo-Newer.
So, interesting. I have a book that is all about growing vegetables in North Carolina.
Interesting. Okay.
Like, written by somebody in North Carolina, and they use the same bag as you in
Oh,
that
that's
book.
cool.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. They use the same product as me.
I know,
but,
in the world. I can't believe there's another person that uses the same product.
Yeah. Now, I will say that her frost date that she put in is a month later than our frost date. So I don't know what the story is with that, but,
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So my next one, and this is, this is a throw in, and this could be inserted anywhere, but I think specifically for spring. And I think a part of the way that we've done this really works out because I can, in preparation for being a new spring gardener, I can provide you some perspective from that, but it's patience. So I'm going to grow collards in the spring. I've traditionally grown them in the summer. The rate that they will take off in the spring is going to be different than the rate that they've grown for me in the summer. So I've consistently had luck with collards growing in the heat, Georgia collards in particular. And I want to remind myself even to be patient when it comes to watching these plants kind of creep along. There's some things, like you said, that the radishes that you'll probably have kind of, again, take off a little bit faster, more so than you would in the summer, just based on them not really liking the heat. But don't throw in the towel too early, right?
Yeah.
And I think a part of patience also folds in when it comes to being more attentive. So we talked earlier on about the weather, and what are we were monitoring the lows, Leonard? I'm just being an ass.
Yeah, you are.
But, like the whole garden walk idea, like it's you're not just planting and walking away. Keeping an eye on things like the weather, taking a look to see how your plants are faring, like all of that. I think it's going to be important for your spring garden because for all of us, the weather is, again, it's volatile like you described it. And there are different sways. You could have 5 days of overcast, right? I mean, these are things you just need to keep in mind. And I'm not saying do anything different. I'm just saying be aware, maybe is the yeah, I'm going to go with aware, Be present in your garden.
No,
Be present for your garden. Be patient.
Yeah, be patient is key, and that's the hardest part. Especially this time of year when it's cold, things don't grow as fast.
Yeah, and I think it's especially if you're referencing something that a different time of year, what your garden experience is like.
Yeah. Part
of the gift is it's different than summer.
Yeah, no, it's true. I have my last one. I'm pretty sure it's my last one. Is a challenge. Yeah. So as you plant your spring garden and you go through, and remember this time of year too, things can bolt out of stress, not just heat. Okay. So that's first things first. So if you get like super warm, super cold, super warm, super cold, super warm, blah, 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 then their plant will bolt in an effort to go into survival mode. So if you have something like that, or when it gets too hot and it starts to bolt, why not just leave it and try and save the seed?
Okay.
Leave one plant, see what happens. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like seriously, like you're making a step in the right direction. You're taking up, a lot of times with these plants, especially like lettuce or something, at max, you're taking up 1 square foot. In all reality, you're probably taking up 4 square inches for a lot of these things. See what happens. You're just taking that step. You might be save a seed. Maybe, a more sustainable garden in the future.
Okay.
That's my plan. I'm doing it with mustard as we speak.
Yeah, I like it because there's still this idea of how long some of these things take to go to seed. And if you're leaving something from your spring garden, you're going to have, that's the longest period of time you're going to have before that plant may go completely dormant. So I can dig it, one plant maybe. Yeah.
One plant. But not.
Okay.
You might love it. You might hate it too.
Yeah, right.
But you don't know until you try.
That's another level of being patient. Yeah.
I have my first saved seeds sprouting now, and I'm hooked. I didn't think I would be. I was like, no, it's pretty cool. And I'll tell you what, I had one random green envy zinnia grow in my yard one bloom. One bloom. And I said, damn, that's pretty cool. It never got big. It struggled.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? I'm going to try it. And I pulled it. Guess what? I just saw that one green envy out of 8. Now, it may come up later, but at least one of them's growing. I'm like, hey, we're working on something here. So, you know.
I have one more. I think that rounds us out. In classic Batavia form, don't forget about the flowers, right? So at the time this airs in a lot of spaces, they may not have come out of their sleep yet. But as you're planting your vegetable gardens, your herbs and things like that, make sure that you're making some room for the flowers, because it won't be long before those pollinators are coming out and looking for something to enjoy. And you want to start retraining them to come back to your garden space. So do you hear the smile in my voice? It makes me happy.
I see it too.
Yeah, it makes me happy.
And you can see it too if you watch this at Backyard Gardens on YouTube. But no, Batavia
that's a part
is exactly
of one of my garden goals for the years as well. Doing more for that part of the garden community, pollinators, and
the pollinator thing is I'm
squirrels.
If you saw the amount of flowers I have started in my house right now, I have more flowers in my house than I have vegetables.
Yeah,
started.
That's pretty cool, man.
So, and all of them are pollinator friendly and heavy. So, to be precise, salvia, which I didn't know I was a big fan of until last year, which I am, and yarrow.
Okay.
So I have some pastel yarrows growing. So I just potted some of them up. I'm pretty happy about that. So.
Yeah. So I'm going to add on to that tip now that you mentioned it. I am all for growing for flowers for aesthetic purposes. I love a pretty flower if it's a favorite of mine. I don't give a if a bee wants it or not. But I also am conscious of like having a pollinator friendly garden. So all flowers aren't, pollinator friendly, if you will. Like pollinators are attracted to some flowers more than others. So a quick Google search will kind of help you if you're trying to figure out what flowers you want to put into your garden. So yeah, that's it.
I use American Meadows, I think is the name of the website. That's the one I mean, they're all about wildflowers and stuff like that. And they sell stuff a little bit higher than some people, but they have a lot of good information, especially like wildflowers and whatnot. Yeah. So, which a lot of flowers are wildflowers, classified as wildflowers. Sure. So, which I've found very interesting. So
yeah, I think I wanted to kind of present this as the pollinators like them more than others, if you will. Not to say that, any flower in your garden is a good flower in your garden, if you ask me.
No, because I put those vincas out last year. Not a single pollinator went to them.
Were you out, out there 24/7? You were monitoring them? Did you have them on camera?
Oh, yeah. Well, we see them a lot. So, but I mean, in relation to like going out by the zinnias or, the marigolds or wildflowers, like it was uncomparison,
Well, a good note on that, I actually put things like that on my porch. So along my porch rails, front porch, and I'm very intentional about not putting anything that pollinators really love, because just being considerate of delivery people, my mail person, you don't want them kind of fighting away bees and things, when they're trying to deliver packages. So. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm actually making, have you ever seen the wander, like, I don't know what the technical term is, the bug houses for like, I'm losing my train of thought. For the wandering bees, the solo bees that fly around. You ever seen a bee on your flower that's just like dead?
I always pretend like they're asleep.
Okay, but you've seen them.
Yeah.
So those aren't honeybees. Those are bees that actually live on their own. And they will die a lot of times because they can't find a place to live, apparently. So they make these houses that you put, and they have all these different size holes in them. And they're made specifically for them to come. And apparently, from what I understand, I saw these 2 years ago. I'm acting like you now. And on my third year, I'm going to get it. because I didn't know if it was like stupid, whatever. But
if it really worked,
bees, those bees are actually the ones that are the pollinators for us, not honeybees and stuff like that. So it's very interesting to see that. So, and I mean, you can get them fairly cheap. You just got to make sure that the little tubes that you put in there don't glue in. You can change them out because you got to change them out each year.
Okay. And
that can be the most active place for a pollinator in your garden. So, but more on that later, maybe. But we've getting some solid tips. Now it's time for one of us, don't know who, but whoever it is, they better have a good recipe.
There's nothing but good recipes here. What is that again?
The recipe of the day.
What is that again?
The recipe of the day. The recipe of the day. The recipe of the day.
Alrighty, so I am introducing now the cold breakfast because we're getting into warmer days, and I save these types of recipes for when the weather gets warmer. You okay there?
Cold food?
Yeah,
no
man.
way.
Yeah.
No, I'm joking.
So there's an official name for this. I can't remember it right now, but it is chilled oatmeal. Right. So I actually prefer my oatmeal this way. But again, I normally only eat it in the spring and summerish. So I actually had in mind of that some strawberries and peaches that I have from the freezer. Frozen fruit that I took out with the intention of adding it to my cold oatmeal. So the whole deal here is the night before, overnight oats is what we're talking about. The night before, you take your oatmeal, however much you plan on eating. I normally make it in the same container I'm going to eat it in. Let's say a cup of oatmeal. I add milk to that, just enough to cover it. And then I add things like pecans or walnuts. Either, not necessarily both. You can add any kind of fruit you have in there, fresh or frozen. You're going to, if you want to do something funky, like you can do like a cocoa, top it with. I typically will add honey to it as like that sweetener. If I have it, which I don't buy it often. Yogurt is another thing because you don't want it to be like your typical hot oatmeal. You want this to be kind of creamy. So your milk is the thing that's going to soften everything. Your yogurt is going to add texture. I do maybe a eighth of a cup or something, 2 tablespoons of yogurt if you're going to add it. I do maybe a tablespoon of honey. I do as much fruit as you want without kind of, you don't want the concoction to be just a whole bunch of food sitting on top of the oatmeal. Because again, you want everything to kind of soak in. I do maybe a cup of fruit. I cut it up. Like these are pretty big chunks of strawberries and peaches. I go a little bit smaller than that. Put it in the refrigerator. 6 hours is plenty of time. But if you do it before you go to bed, that next morning, you literally have to do nothing but get a spoon out, stir it up. If it's a little bit too dry, like it's absorbed too much of the milk, you can add a little bit more milk to it. I like it just with a little bit of creaminess, like a little bit of wetness with the milk. And you have breakfast. It's as filling as any hot oatmeal that I've ever had.
I like cold oatmeal like that.
Yeah.
Overnight oats. Do you use quick oats or old fashioned oats?
I use quick oats, and that's only because I don't want to buy 2 types of oats. So,
do you want me to give you a little cost savings tip?
Sure.
Quick oats is nothing more than oatmeal that has been ground up, added to old fashioned oats. So you can buy old fashioned oats, take a portion of it out, throw it in a blender, put it back in. You got quick oats, and it's $1 cheaper.
Okay, gotcha.
Roughly.
I can dig it. We've
done that for a long time, and I like it with the overnight oats. I like the bigger old-fashioned oats. Just, I don't know, I like that little bit of texture.
Yeah, I don't so much, but I get what you're saying. Like, I kind of want it to be more porridge-like,
Yeah.
For me.
Do you like grits?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. Yeah, you're good. You can stay on the show.
Yeah, my grandmother.
If you said no, we'd have issues.
Yeah, my grandmother made the best grits ever. Let me ask you though: salt or sugar?
I'm a salt guy.
Nicely done.
I don't eat sugar, so and I don't
always?
know anybody that puts sugar in.
Meaning grits were always with salt.
Yeah.
Okay.
Always with salt. Yeah. I don't think I've ever had sugar in it.
Mm-hmm. It's a whole debate on the interweb. So for me, it's salt, pepper, butter. I feel like people that put sugar in things like grits are the same people that put sugar in spaghetti. You can still be a part of our gang. It's okay, but it's definitely
Isn't that like a
taste.
Midwest thing?
I don't know. Maybe so. Maybe some folks will write in and tell us.
Yeah, I think that may be like a Midwest
Sugar
thing, maybe.
in the grits is a Midwest thing?
Maybe, yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm in the Midwest.
'Cause I've never heard of it.
I've never eaten grits with sugar in them. I'm just saying.
Chicago, big city Midwest.
Yeah.
Come on.
Oh, I get where. Oh, that's not nice. Okay. All right. Yeah. We count for the Midwest.
You do. It's just different. No. Yeah, I love overnight oats. We eat them a lot.
Yeah.
So, and then I got lazy, and then I started chilling them for like an hour, and it wasn't the same.
Yeah, like as soon as you get that kind of doughiness of the oat, it's like put it back in the refrigerator, man.
Yeah, just hang it up, have some fruit. So, well, you heard it here. You got a solid recipe. You got solid tips. I think they're solid.
Agreed.
To get you in your spring garden planting.
PlaNTing.
So let us know how excited you are to plant.
Was that PlaNTing? This is the last time we'll have to say this.
Did I mess it up?
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, we still have to do the summer episodes.
Well, I mean, I think if you're here at an hour in, my guess is you figure we're talking about planting.
Yeah, you should know at this point.
And thanks for sticking with us.
Yeah, thanks for going for the long term. If you've made it this far, let us know what your favorite tip is and what you didn't know. I would be curious to know. Mm-hmm. So, but otherwise, everybody stay safe, wear a mask, be cool, get your hands dirty. And when I say dirty, I mean get your hands in there and get them filthy. Take your gloves off and dig in the dirt. It's the first time this year. Take the gloves off. Let the fingernails get dirty. Have fun. Enjoy. And until next time.
See ya.
Thanks for hanging out with us today. If you want to see what we're up to or just stay up to date on all the announcements regarding the show or anything gardening, then you can follow us on Instagram at Backyard Gardens TV.
We love seeing what you guys are doing, so use hashtag BYG Podcast in your posts, and we'll be sharing your gardens with the Backyard Gardens community.
And check us out on YouTube at Backyard Gardens, where we will post this show, all of our other shows, clips, and then also some gardening tips and just gardening entertainment. And you can see us at our website at backyardgardenstv.com. But that's it for today's show. So help us as we learn to grow and grow for change. And until next time, we'll catch you guys later. We'll call this one a wrap.
Now you know why people feel like celebrating at harvest time.
All over the world, people have feasting and good times when the crops have been gathered in.